on to this story now. It is the time of the year where you get to have your will drafted for free, Morena.
Of course, the country marks National Wills Week from tomorrow until Friday the 16th. Now, it's estimated that over 70% of South Africans pass away without a valid will. That is concerning. Now, to speak about the significance of having a will, we're joined now by Vice President at the Law Society of South Africa, Joanne Anthony Gooden. A very good morning to you, Joanne, and thank you so much for your time. 70% of this country, of the adults at least, that are able to have a will in place, do not have one. That is scary.
Yes, thank you very much for inviting the Law Society of South Africa to be able to speak on this very important and significant topic, especially in the light of us just coming through the COVID pandemic when so many people hadn't given much thought to even drafting a will. And absolutely, I think the important challenge is that for this week, starting tomorrow until Friday, everyone in the country of South Africa is invited to go along to the Law Society of South Africa's website and click on the I Want a Free Will red toggle in the top left-hand corner. It will take you to a list of attorneys in your province, and you can make an appointment and get your will drafted for free.
I think what's also disconcerting is that with the 70% who have passed away, who do not have a will, where does the estate go to? And then the second question will be around, that means that somewhere, somehow in the ether, there's a lot of money or a lot of, a lot of fortunes that potentially could be for families, which they're not being claimed simply because when the family or when the person passed away, then that will was not drafted, which means that there's a whole process involved in being able to prove that you are indeed supposed to be the right recipient of certain fortunes.
Absolutely. One of the most significant factors is that if you die without a will, your estate is going to be devolved in terms of the Intestate Succession Act. And there's a very strict protocol to follow there with regards to where the money will go. It's not a question that the money automatically gets forfeited or that the money disappears. It just means that the executor, who is the person that should have drafted the will, that is the person that died, doesn't necessarily have shown anyone in his family or in his friendship circle or the world at large who he wants his estate to go to. So firstly, anyone who passes away, if you pass away without a will, there is still a process to be followed in order for their financial side to be set up and for that money to be allocated according to the rules of the Intestate Succession Act. What has to happen is that any person in the family or has an interest in the affairs of the deceased person must go to the master's office in the city where that person dies. And what they will need to do is they will need to fill in some paperwork, provide a copy of the death certificate, and the master's office and their consultants and employees will then guide that person with a letter of executorship, which will give that person authority to then deal with the affairs of the deceased person, to assist them as to what has to happen and how to wind up that deceased estate. But I think in order for us to move to a state of acknowledgement and education, because that is what we are wanting to get across in this message, and that is, it is not difficult to draft your will. You don't need to have an estate of hundreds of thousands of rand. You might just have a car and a bank account. You might not even have a pension fund, but you can get yourself a free basic will by going to the Law Society's website and getting to a firm of attorneys who have indicated that they are willing to assist you. And we just want to say to everybody that may want to take us up on this offer, please make sure that you have a copy of your ID with you. We also will need the details of the people that you want to leave your estate to, that is their names and their ID numbers, so that that information can be in the documents. A lot of people seem to think that the drafting of a will by an attorney may cost a lot of money. That is not necessarily the case. For a basic will, you are now going to be able to get a will for free this week. And we are also trying to link up with the community to get them to realize that the attorneys are out to, we want to work with the community, we want to assist the community, we want to empower the community. Firstly, to take care of the children in the case of the deceased passing away, and also to make sure that you know what's going to happen to your estate after your death. So having a will doesn't need to be a scary process. The attorneys that have signed up to assist in this process are all willing and able to help you. There are a number of attorneys in every city. Please go and visit the Law Society website. For those of you that are not aware, I'll just give it to you. It's www.lssa.org.za.
Now, Joanne, I want to have a will, but I don't have anybody to leave my estate to, even though it is just a car in a bank account, and I also don't want to give it up to charity. So what then do I put in my will?
Well, the freedom of testation, which is your right to benefit someone from your estate, you have to choose somebody. So you must understand that if you are not going to choose somebody, then ultimately it's either going to be free in the sense that it will be unclaimed, or alternatively, it will ultimately be forfeited to the state. So I appreciate that those are your wishes, but there must be a friend or maybe a work colleague or an institution that you would want to benefit, even if it is just a car or a few proceeds in a bank account. If there is nobody, then sadly it would then go to the state.
Yeah, don't worry, Joanne. We'll convince him by the end of the show that to leave all of his estate to me. But nonetheless, though, let's talk a little bit also about wills being contested. You know, a lot of families may even come to the front and say, no, we are contesting the contents of this will and the like. Is there a way of actually making this will or drafting a will contestation free or safe? And when does a will actually get contested?
That's a very interesting point, and I can tell you now, no one fights more than family after the death of a loved one. There's always a saying that no one really wants to take care of the elderly, but the moment they die, we're scrapping like vultures over the carcass for whatever we can take. And it's a sad but very true reality. What we need to be mindful of is that when you are of sound mind, as the testator or testatrix, if you are female, you have the right to dispose of your estate in accordance with your wishes. So unless someone is forcing the deceased person prior to their death to sign a will under duress, like in their last dying moments, and at that stage they really were not of sound mind, or they are blackmailing that person, and that can be proven, it's very difficult to contest a will. There have been instances where people have left their entire estates to charitable institutions simply because they don't want to leave it to their family because they've had falling outs or there've been emotional issues over the years, and they've just decided, you know what, I'd rather give my estate to a charitable institution. And we often find that they give it to friends and other loved ones that are not family members. So number one, if you are a disgruntled family member, you need to realize that simply because you are family, if there's a will, it doesn't automatically give you the right to oppose the will or the content of the will, unless you can specifically prove that the person who wrote the will was under duress at the time or was not of sound mind at the time.
All right, we're going to leave it there, Joanne. Thank you so much for joining us and helping us unpack this. And once again, of course, those who perhaps were catching this conversation a little late, National Wills Week, of course, is coming up. It starts tomorrow. Just go over to the Law Society of South Africa, or if you know anywhere else where you can go and get yourself a will drafted for free between tomorrow and Friday the 16th, because 70% of people not having a will in this country, there are so many tens of millions of people in South Africa, and 70% of us do not have a will. That is scary. So to avoid the kinds of situations we're seeing, of course, for example, with Ricky Rick and his wife Bianca Naidu, let's just draft wills so that just everything is clear.
Yeah, also family members, right?
Yeah.
I think the biggest one is when family members who may not even be known to you, or who may not even have been part of your raising, your life, and upon your death, automatically descend and say, no, ke ngwana wa malum, or ke ngwana wa abuti wa rona, and that person was never been part of your life. But because there is no ways that you can almost, contend with that or even deliberate on that, just given the status, the will speaks for you when you can't speak for yourself. Exactly. And I think that's the real key message here, is that allow the will to speak for you when you can't speak for yourself. But now